Really glad you're here for our 10th webinar in the series called Global Radio Ideas. So my name is Ken Benson. I am your host today, along with my co-host, Andy Sanneman. He's the CEO of Benztown. And while I'm in the US today, he is joining us from Germany.
Hey guys, today's webinar, I was thrilled to have her on, Laurie Lewis. Spend less time on social media, create real impact. That's the headline. So we're looking forward to that. The chat box is activated as always. Give us a shout out. Tell us where you're watching. Our guests will gladly answer your questions in the last segments of the conversation. So guys, girls, don't be shy. Just ask away.
So let's tell you a bit about our guest today. She began as an on-air talent in Las Vegas and probably lost a little money she was making back then too in the slot machines. Her big break came later on when she joined the team of a famous shock jock from Tampa, Florida called Bubba the Love Sponge. And there's a lot of great stories from that era in her career. She then went to become a program director, first in rock and then the smooth jazz format for iHeartMedia in Baltimore. But Laurie is one of those people that saw the future unfold very early on and left day-to-day programming way back in 2008 when this Facebook thing was just getting started. And she talked Midwest Communications in her home state of Wisconsin into a position, again, way back in 2008, a VP of Social Strategies and Digital Audience Growth. She's been on the forefront of social media ever since, working later for Jacobs Media and then VP of Social Media for Cumulus and Westwood One, and later even for Modern Luxury Magazine. In 2009, she decided to hang her shingle out and start her own company, Laurie Lewis Media, and she's advising brands today on how to create real impact in the social space. So live from Atlanta, Georgia, please welcome the president of Laurie Lewis Media, Laurie Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken. That was very nice. And as everybody can tell, how smart am I to start a business right at the beginning of a pandemic? It kind of reminds me of, and here's something that, we were talking earlier, Andy and Ken and I what's something that people don't know about you? You know what's hilarious, kind of, sort of, in 2008, right at the height of the market crash, remember, right before the housing market was about to crash and the recession was going to hit in, I was like, hey, I should leave my comfort zone as a program director and go try and figure out what this Facebook stuff is. Like, who does that? Like, right at the height of a market crash, you go, I'm going to leave this really cushy gig to go figure out what Facebook is and why people post photos of themselves online. And so it's so odd that fast forward, I decided to start a company and 2 months later, pandemic hit. So there's my luck. I'm a person with no luck, no timing, right?
Come on, Laurie. I think it worked well for you. So you kind of fast forward my first question, and I'm happy that you said you'll be down for it because usually people need to be brave. So let's begin by telling us something we don't know about you.
Well, I don't even know if this is very interesting. I don't find myself an interesting person, and I don't think people realize it's what a weird life you live, that my whole job is to help people be comfortable in elevating their personal or business brand. It's really what it is. I love elevating and emphasizing and helping people find not only that they matter in this space, but teaching them how to treat people and how to remind other people that they matter. But meantime, I'm over here I have issues with posting. I'm inconsistent. You're going to hear the word consistent probably 10 times in the next 30 minutes, but I'm the most inconsistent person there is. So I'm a walking contradiction, is what people don't know.
Okay, Laurie, well, let's focus on this. Hello? Okay. It's rock and roll. All right, so let's talk about Clubhouse. We're started on our last webinar, also simulcasting live on Clubhouse. Of course, it's the latest rage in social media. And of course, welcome to the people that are joining us there right now. But what I want to know is what it is and, how we should be using it and what should presenters be doing, what should stations be doing, if anything at all, in this Clubhouse space.
Well, the first thing that I advise, and the first person I told this to, is Scott Mahalik. I hope everybody in this room either knows him or gets to know him. He's constantly asking the whys and the whats. And when he said, "What should we be doing?" and I said, "What we should be doing is not what we did in 2008, 2009, when Facebook opened up to the public. It was no longer college students only. And what did brands do? They jumped on there, create a little personal profile, and they weren't supposed to. Zuckerberg was very clear. This is not for brands yet. This is for people." And so, radio has no patience. And so they're just like, I'm going to create these personal profile pages for my radio stations. And then it just got really messy. If you can remember in 2010, when they created business pages. Now, I don't know, I've got this personal page. Now I got to do a business page. You spent all this time creating this personal profile for your business page, and you weren't supposed to. And now they come out with business pages. And how do you get all of these people over? It's just a mess. So with Clubhouse, don't do it. Don't repeat the same, mistake. Get the talent on Clubhouse. Brands aren't supposed to be there right now, so don't worry about it. The best bet that you can do right now is define how Clubhouse can work for you. All of us that have been playing with Clubhouse and working with it, we have some sort of an idea of how we can use it as for brands. But right now, while it's still invite only, iOS only, no real competition, because Mark Cuban's Fireside is not going to launch for a while, get the talent on Clubhouse, get their feet wet, help them understand what is it that the talent could get out of it. Get the talent to build up a following on there. Get the talent to become authority in a voice of what they love. Maybe they love to drink wine. Maybe they love to cook. Maybe they love to talk about philanthropy. Whatever it is, bolden the talent to get on there. And by the way, I have to say, and I hope everybody agrees with me, I'm a little shocked at the lack of radio people on Clubhouse. It's audio only. It's our wheelhouse. Don't you guys agree that radio should be flooding it right now, trying to figure it out on its own?
Absolutely, Lori. I got so excited when I got invited first, and since then we're playing around with it. So, you're an absolute expert in social media, and obviously with your radio background as well. So we are, as regulars, what are we getting right? And how can we, all of us, improve on social media?
It's a great question. One answer: execution. Somebody recently asked, what is radio doing wrong? And I really appreciate your question, Andy, because what is it that we're doing right? That's what we're going to, really focus on and build systems through the next 30 minutes. But you can't do anything right until you get the execution down. And the execution is a little bit of what we're going to talk about. The execution is awful. And I say that respectfully because I get when you have 10, 20 different things that you need to do in one day, but then here's social media with no real tangible results, right? Social media is an intangible in brand building. There's nothing tangible about ratings, and there's nothing real tangible about revenue. Yeah, you can make a few $100 off a post, but there's nothing real tangible about social media. So when you have a million things to do, that's why it falls on the back burner. What I hope to do, what I feel like my responsibility is, and I've always felt this for the past 13 years of being in the space, is how can I make social media easier for you and create even better results? That's always been my mission, is how can I help you create the greatest systems so that we don't miss a beat in the social space?
So execution is something that you really underscored in that answer. And I think, like I said, that's where stations fall down. And radio over the last year has only become more challenging, right? COVID has resulted in smaller staffs everywhere. Those that remain have more and more to do. So you promised that you would share high impact tactics today that will allow us to spend less time on social but have better outcomes. So let's jump right into it. What are those 8 tactics that these guys can take and start using today at their radio stations?
All right. So I start every workshop with this. You'll see this slide where it says common sense is not common practice. We're going to talk about tactics you believe you're doing. Because look, if you're a parent, you know what I'm saying. The kid's like, I did it. I do it. I'm doing it. No, when I assess, I'm like, we're going to talk about replying to comments in 2 seconds. When I say that to people, they're like, well, I did it. So I assess the account. What happens? Yeah, it's Friday. They did it Monday. Like, they found one comment to reply to. And because they replied once in 5 days, they believe they did it. So common sense, much of what you may hear in the next 30 minutes or so may feel like common sense, but it is not common practice. And one other area that I like to get into before the high impact tactic is the Internet Minute. Chad Callan and I have been doing these Internet Minutes for, I think, 5 years now. And it is impossible to wrap our brain around what's happening every 60 seconds. What I ask is to never assume what we're doing has inherent value, because this is what's happening every minute while we're trying to get everyone's attention. And by the way, this is 2020. As I crunch the numbers right now for the 2021 graph that we'll release, some of these numbers have increased. With Facebook, I think they've gone from 1.3 million people scrolling every 60 seconds to, I think, like 1.8, if I have my numbers right. It's insane how much money was spent online. And again, COVID really helped this. This graph is up at P1, the number one, don't spell it out, p1mediagroup.com/social-media. So you don't have to worry about reading it right now. When this is over, or even if I'm boring you in the middle of this, head over to p1mediagroup.com/social-media, and you'll see it there. And then the guys at Benztown and P1 can get you the 2021 graph whenever it comes up.
Fantastic.
So the number one high impact tactic, if you don't do anything of all of these 8 tactics that we're going to talk about, but this one, reply to comments. It's funny because I can't tell you how many people say, like we were talking, I already do this. Then I go to their social assets and there's literally nothing happening. I think that there is this wild misconception that you don't have to reply to people because you were deserved the response. I still haven't figured out the psychological side of why people don't reply. Let me give you a quick story on this, on why replies matter. This was 2009, and I had convinced Duke Wright of Duke Wright's Midwest Communications to allow me to get my feet wet. We started in 2008, but it wasn't until 2009 that this happened. Somebody commented, one of the radio stations, I think it was Y100, a great country station in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and a fan commented on a post, and nobody said anything. And so I asked the talent, hey, I know you guys are busy. Do you mind if I go in? I'll reply as Y100, not me, because nobody knows who the hell Lori Lewis is. And they're like, yeah, do it. So I replied to the lady, and she came back, OMG, I can't believe you responded. This is so cool. Thank you so much. She was over the top because she got a little response on Facebook. And again, this is 2009. That taught me what I just intuitively knew, and that there was going to be a human element to this space. We still didn't understand too much about it, but that replying was going to set your brand apart. It was going to be the differentiation between you and the other radio station playing the same country music with kind of sort of the same country talent talking on the air. When we use social to make people feel seen and heard, that was going to be a differentiator. So if you can, like in the comment section here, what I love with what Warm does, it's a station that I work for in Seattle. What I love that they do, and I wish that they would be more consistent, but when they reply, the audience then replies back, and we get to learn even more about the audience, and that's critical. And we'll get into understanding audience in just a minute. But if there's one of these 8 tactics that you decide you're only going to do, or the one tactic to focus on when this is over, it's replying. It's helping people feel seen and heard. The more you do that, the more people see that, other people see it, and they glom onto it. Because people are walking around with the internet in their pants, and they want to feel something. They want to feel that they belong to something. Help them feel belong. Help them feel like they are part of your radio station. And then write this down. By the way, if I say anything that's interesting to you or anything like that, tweet it, because I always love to learn what is it that resonated and what didn't. This is really important. Write this down or tweet this. The less interested we appear to be in the audience, the less interested they become in us, period. So another tactic besides replying, become a pinball wizard. This means work to move the audience off Facebook onto the mothership, the FM AM stick, then maybe back to Facebook, then maybe to a podcast. But it has to be seamless, right? We can't be like, oh, listen to us now go to Facebook. It all has to be seamless. And here's what seamless looks like. This is the morning show that I'm working with. This example is they did what a lot of people did, share photos of your mask. This was probably a few months into the shutdown, quarantine. And so, they're like, show us a picture of your mask. So what I had asked the morning show to do with every post, and by the way, they only post once a day, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But this was their daily post. And I said another way to utilize social is while you're on the air and you do something, when people say something that's fun, funny, interesting, weird, anything like that, the best way to highlight that and help them feel seen and heard is then to get on air and say, hey, over on Facebook, we were talking to people and they were sharing their photos of their masks and they're hilarious. And Bob Stein, he knows that Shasta hates clowns and you got to go see his photo. It's hilarious. He has a clown mask. And so it was just perfect on-air content because it was seamless and it was relatable. And so we pinballed Bob off social media. We said, hey, Bob, we're going to give you a shout out in a minute. So Bob turns the radio on. He hears his name. And then you see that next. He's like, hey, you guys, thanks for the shout out. Put a smile on my face. Pinball wizard means never let the party, start and stop on social media. Find natural, seamless ways to pinball them to an event, even to listening. But just watch the way that you do it, right? Like people don't really want to be told what to do. So find seamless ways like this example to constantly pinball people, and that'll increase your interaction. Another tactic, and this is my favorite, we were just kind of sort of talking about this here, breathe in between posts. My Lord, I have seen so many companies out there posting like 10 times a day. And it's hard enough to hit it out of the park once a day in the social space. I don't know how people think that they can do it. But so the brands that I work with, personal and business, the rule is simply to focus on one great piece of content a day. It's like, again, it's impossible to hit it out of the park 10, 20 times a day. But if you're really studying audience signals, and that's a tactic we'll get into, if you're studying audience signals and you're respecting the audience and you understand they probably only need to see you once anyway, right? None of us really need to see things more than once a day, if even that. So when we're focused on, all right, what is the content that aligns with our voice and our values? And let's focus on one great piece of content today. What happens is over time, you start learning what that content is that resonates. And you only have to post once a day because the comments get out of hand, and that's a good thing. There are some brands that hire me just to do the interaction for them. And it's so fun, like going back to the morning show I was just talking about, I will do their interactions for them. What I'll do is channel their voice and I'll reply to a couple of people. This is what you're going to do. You're going to reply to a couple of people, then you're going to stop. And an hour later, when you have 5 minutes of downtime, you're going to go back and you're going to reply to more people. The more that we're replying to people and the more that we're breathing in between posts, the more we are extending the life of the content, which means, say it with me, you only have to post once a day. And that is a high impact tactic that takes the least amount of effort, but generates the greater results. Because I would love for you to do this. I would love for you to really find one great piece of content. And I want this to be a challenge for everybody here. And I want you to email Ken, Andy, me, and I want you to prove us wrong because I will shout at the mountaintop if I am wrong. I want you to post 10 times a day. And then the next day, I want you to follow the rule of focusing on one great piece of content. I mean great. I don't mean a link. and listen to me because I have a new podcast. I mean, a piece of content that generates interaction. And you tell me you didn't get more interaction from that one great post as opposed to the 10, that you shot out that whole day. So that's the challenge that I give to you. And you email us, but email us success stories too, because that's fun to share with everybody. But that is a very important high impact tactic that takes the least amount of time and generates the greater results. Because once that one post is up, now all your responsibility is to reply to people throughout the day at your convenience. So you're no longer a slave to social media. Now social media is fun. Now social media is working for you.
So Lori, just a couple quick comments from the audience. One says quality over quantity on air and off. Brilliant and makes sense. So that's a great tip in itself. So well done.
Oh, I'm so happy because I have a couple of friends that I just adore and they 100% disagree with me. And I'm like, I'm always right. So I just let them disagree. I'm just kidding. So that's awesome to hear. Now, here's another tactic that we kind of sort of alluded to with the breathe between posts. It's having a data-driven approach. It's studying audience signals. We kind of sort of do this with the mothership, the AM, FM signals. But rarely do we do it in the social space. We try to figure out on air, why did we lose people? Why did we lose time spent listening? Why did we lose Q? And it's really hard with the, most of the methodology that we deal with because you can't really pinpoint why somebody turned the radio station off. You can guess. The jock sucked, the music sucked, they had to get out of the car, somebody started talking, whatever it was. It could be all kinds of reasons. But in the social space, this is what I love going back to 2008. When somebody liked your post, that meant it was good, it resonated. Okay, do more of that. And then when you posted and nobody liked it, you're like, whatever, okay. So that's hard on the ego, but you go, okay, nobody cared about my kid. All right, I'll stop posting about my kid. I got it. That's the beauty of social media. And moving into personal brands or business brands, when you see here are insights, to the far left, it's Facebook. In the middle, it's Instagram. And to the far right, it's Twitter. They offer you these free insights where you can just study what's the most engaged content of the week. And so like with Facebook to the far right, you'll see, or far left, you'll see most engaging. Look at that and study, is there a pattern in what the audience wants from me? Again, personal brands or professional brands. With Instagram right there in the middle, study content interactions. If it's going down, that means what we're doing isn't really hitting the mark with the audience. And it's okay. When we go down with interactions, it doesn't mean we don't know what we're doing. It just means, again, there's that human element to social media that is so hard and sometimes frustrating to work with. But the answers all lie right there in the insights. So have a data-driven approach. Try every Monday or every Friday, whatever works for you, to just go into each platform that you use, look at the insights, but more importantly, look at the content engagements. Reach is cool. I remember I was such like a Debbie Downer one time when somebody ran to me and they're like, I just reached 1 million people. And I looked up, like took my glasses off, like, and how did you capitalize off of that? Like that was kind of bitchy, wasn't it? So I didn't mean to be so mean, but that is how my brain works. It's like reach is fantastic, but until you can tell me how you capitalized off 1 million people, focus on content engagement. That's where we want to grow, because the more that we increase interaction, the more we increase a following. The next tactic is holy crap. And, or no, I guess I'm sorry. My notes are awful. See, I told you I'm awful. Create a cadence and then we'll get into holy crap. A cadence is something that a lot of people kind of fight back on, and I don't really understand. It was a friend of mine, Heather Lee, who kind of came up with this analogy, and I was like, that's a beautiful analogy. We're working on building a cadence. A cadence is a social media content style and posting pattern. That's what it is. But how do you explain it to people in radio? Because, when social media has been the Wild West for so long, nobody wants structure. Nobody wants focus. It literally is, if you've ever raised a little toddler and you let her, just run the house for the first year because I'm too distracted with work, and I give her no rules. And finally, around 3, I'm like, hey, Carly, there's actually rules to this. You actually have to go to bed at 7. You actually have to eat your dinner. And she blows up and fights. This is what's happening kind of sort of with some brands, personal and business, is I'm like, okay, the first step is actually to create a cadence. Let's every Monday look at the week ahead and figure out what's going on and try to commit to stuff. And people don't like it. And so what Heather Lee had always said was like, what if we looked at cadence like a music log? And this is beautiful. We schedule songs to ensure we're playing the most optimal music at any given tune-in. That is the beauty of a music log, is we are structured and we are focused. And hopefully at any given tune-in, we're playing the best music. The social media space deserves the same respect. At any given moment when we flow through newsfeed, it should be the most optimal content we believe we can share. And that is the essence of a cadence. And you see an example here. You don't have to be fancy with this. This is a Word doc. It's like a Microsoft Word doc. It's not flashy. It's very unpolished, but it works. And that's what's important. You write down the day and the platform. You go, okay, Monday, I'm going to do Instagram and TikTok. And so what is it that I'm going to do? Okay, so on Reels, I'm going to do body positivity. This is an artist that I'm working with. And so she kind of writes out the days. But here's what's super important, what I ask everybody to do. At the start of creating a cadence, your mental health comes first. And that means look at the week ahead. If Tuesday is going to be a super busy day, Tuesday is empty. Don't commit to anything on social media. Protect your mental health first. So look at what you have coming up ahead and then go, okay, so Tuesday I'm not going to do anything, but I will do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And here's what I'll do. And the last thing about a cadence and the best is that it's fluid. It's ever changing. If something happens on Monday, and for conversation's sake, say you had hashtag Monday motivation planned, but something happens, something locally, regionally, nationally, something with artists that you play, something in your personal life happens that you want to share. What's cool is you can just shelve that content. You can either move that content to next Monday or maybe use some kind of motivational content later in the week. So remember, it's fluid. It's there to keep you structured. It's there to make sure that you are creating or curating the most optimal content. So at any given time, you're flowing through our newsfeed. It's something that resonated. It's something that was memorable. The next tactic, I believe, is holy crap moments. And this is one of my favorite stories. This literally is a high impact tactic that takes the least amount of time, but generates results that are forever lasting. This is kind of a dated example, but I don't care. Like, I'm used to being judged. I love this. This right here kind of helped me like coin the holy crap moments. It's when Google Plus came out. Remember that, guys? I think it was called Google Plus.
Barely.
And you could have like 10, I think there were 10 squares. So it was early Zoom. And I was like, how do I show radio how to use this? Because this is pretty cool. This is visual social media. So I asked JT, who was running WCSX Detroit at the time. I'm like, can you get me an artist? Let's do like artist, fan, and we'll use your email database to vet fans. But I don't care, ABC level, just get me an artist. So he comes up with Nugent, which makes sense. The station's in Detroit. Nugent's right there in Michigan. And so Nugent agrees to do it, which is so cool because it's the classic rock station. So it's just perfect. The planets have aligned, and it's like a rainy Tuesday night. And at the bottom of the screen where you can see all the photos, those are the people that are on this Google Plus, if that's what it was called. And Nugent's son set up the laptop. So all we were looking at was Nugent's kitchen. And we're waiting and waiting. And all of a sudden, remember, it's just this random cold, rainy Tuesday night. Listeners don't even know what they've got themselves into. All they've been told is they're going to ask Ted a question. And here comes Ted walking towards the laptop, sitting down. And one of the radio station listeners said, holy crap. And the way he said it was so powerful that it taught me right then and there, this is a tactic that we should never, ever overlook in the social space. It doesn't have to be getting Ted Nugent on a Zoom these days. It doesn't even have to be backstage tickets when we finally get back to going out and doing things. It means taking the time every week to try and make somebody go, holy crap. It really could be some awesome reply, somebody that says something to you and you come back with something so powerful that it not just made their day, it made them go, holy crap, I matter. Look, this jock, this talent, this radio station, this podcaster, this person said this to me. You have no clue how powerful your words are or your actions until you hear somebody say thank you like that in return. So create holy crap moments. I ask people, and it's okay if you don't meet the goal, it's fine. But I ask people to create at least one holy crap goal a week. If you can't hit it, you can't, because it's not always easy. But the more that we shift our minds to, you know what, social is about outward focus. It's about creating holy crap moments. It's about reminding people that they matter. The more we change the mind shift to think like that, the easier it'll be to create those holy crap moments. And the cool thing about holy crap moments, because we're talking about spending less time on social, you do that, you can walk away from social for another day or two because you just did something so powerful for a couple of people, but a lot of people watched it. That's the meaning behind it, is people watched you care about somebody. So you could do something like this so powerful and just walk away from social media for the next day. So this is really about working smarter and not harder. The next tactic. Oh, I wish I had that on tape. It really was the best. It really was a reminder. Again, what I just said, the essence of social is to remind people that they matter, give them those moments, because you know that guy's still talking about this today. Another tactic is transcend these fundamentals to other channels. A lot of what we're talking about, make sure that you're not just transcending them to on air. A lot of what we discuss is really transcend to on air, but also remember the other channels. So here's one example of what that means and what that looks like. When you're doing like a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or something like that, make sure you're tapping into the email database. Don't overlook the other channels. It doesn't mean that it's always going to work. I know that email is kind of, tough these days with the open rates so small. But if you can get just 1% more with your Facebook Live with email as opposed to without, then it was worth it. Never really think that the email's going to save you, but it's just kind of, a lot of people may not be on Facebook when you go live. So why not use email to go, hey, we're over here. I'm not sure. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't really have a stand on using other platforms, like if you're doing a Facebook Live and using Twitter to pull people in. I don't really have a stand on that because I don't know if it bothers people. If people are on Twitter, is it because they love Twitter and they're annoyed that you want to join their Facebook Live? I think you can kind of try things out and test the water, but definitely email is something that's overlooked often in the social space. When you have something that, not to overuse it, but when you hit it out of the park, there's no reason why you shouldn't be using social media to pull people into that post. You can copy links or you can embed the post, however you want to do it. When something has triggered a ton of reaction organically, why not, one, pay to promote it, throw $20 at it and promote it for 24 hours just to get more eyeballs, or, go the freeway and use the email. When you have content that explodes, find cool ways to get other people to see it that wouldn't normally see it because maybe they're not on Facebook every day.
Yeah, really good point. I mean, just exploit good content you have and get the most out of it.
Yes. And, in seamless ways and in ways where it doesn't feel like we're trying to pitch or sell them. It's just like, wow, this, so that's really good. And I think that this is the last the last tactic, and it's again really very important, connecting with emotion. Every time I say it, the DJ in me cringes, because we kind of say that ad nauseum, don't we? Connect with emotion, connect with emotion. And it has dawned on me, over the years, it's not easy to remember how to connect with emotion. That doesn't mean we're not good communicators. I'm going to show you a cheat sheet that I created in just a minute. But here's the story with connect with emotion. And here's what it looks like. In March, was it March? In March, when most of us were in lockdown, I feared, as most of you do, that people were not listening to radio regularly, and not because of a lack of value, but our whole lives have been disrupted, and with very few radios in the home, and not a lot of training our audience and how to listen to us via Alexa or any other streaming way. I had asked the talent that I serve, would you just fire up Facebook Live every day, even if it's for 5 minutes? And I don't want you to use this as appointment listening or driving listening, nothing. I want you to say these 3 words. How are you? Something is going on that's very scary and terrifying with most people, especially those locked in home with toddlers. Like, God bless you. For those of you that are here today, God bless you. Like, can you imagine, Ken, had you been locked down when your kids were toddlers? So I'm trying to think of all the different levels of what people are going through. I love my daughter, but that would be crazy. So I'm trying to think of all the levels, the uncertainty, oh my gosh, I'm locked in my house with my 2-year-old, all of the levels. And I asked everybody, just say 3 words. How are you? And you know what started happening? And again, these were only maybe 5. Some people would go 40 minutes, which is, wow. But it just was, remind people of what you look like and remind them why they were connected to you in the first place. If that's because there was some connection there was something emotional that happened, and that's why they tuned into you every day. Well, now, until we figure this COVID thing out, they're going to be home. You've got to find a way to still be a part of their daily habits. And so if you're going to do a Facebook Live every day at noon, perfect. Every day at noon, they get to see you for 5 minutes. You're still a part of their lives. I didn't want them dropping off, because when we create habits, other habits drop off. And so I don't know if you can see, but in the comment section, people were like, will you still do this when COVID is over? Like, isn't that comment cute? I think the person thought COVID was going to be over like in 4 weeks or something. But people were constantly asking, this is just one example of many. People were like, I love that you do this. It gives your station a personal touch. All they were doing is trying to distract people from their, the uncertainty of the world and the schedule disruptions and being locked in the house with the family, the spouse, the kids, the dogs, whatever. And it worked. And this was connecting with emotion. It was so simple. That's why this is a high impact tactic that took the least amount of effort and time, but created the greatest results. They didn't have to do anything else on social media if they didn't want to for the rest of the day, because they spent 5 minutes and asked the audience, how are you? That's all that mattered. It was meaningful. It resonated. It still gives me chills.
So simple.
Yes.
8 phenomenal tips. Thank you so much. We're speaking with Lori Lewis. Lori is the president and founder of Lori Lewis Media. And as you can tell, she's a social media guru. We are going a little long today, which I think is fine because this is great. We can go on for hours, so we'll have to have you back at some point. But we do have some great comments coming in. But most importantly, as you see on the screen now, Lori is here to answer some of your questions. If you have a question, just put in the chat box and we'll get to those in a couple of minutes. So let's go back 1 slide if we can. Yeah, here we go. Let's talk about the 6 emotional triggers while these questions come in, and tell us what this is all about and how do we use this, Lori?
But this goes with the connect with emotions. So I have always wanted to be that person that didn't go connect with emotions, but not show how. So I took the time with Chad Callahan, who does, I will gather all this data, and Chad is amazing at making these things come to life. This is the cheat sheet that I created for you, because here's the deal. Anybody can say connect with emotion, but it's really not easy to think about, well, how do I do that when our but our brains are thinking about 10 different things. So what people have found that they love is they print this out. And again, this is at the P1 Media Group website. People print this out and keep it near where they create or curate content. So what happens is that you're done creating content. Now go to the bucket list and go, does this fall under one of the emotional triggers? Entertaining, teachable, inspiring, inclusive, relatable, empathy. If it doesn't, reconsider sharing the content until it does. People want to feel something. And the more we train our brains to write in a way that taps an emotional trigger, the more success that we're going to have connecting with people online.
Well, it all makes sense. I mean, emotion is a buzzword used super often, but I think those 6 emotional triggers and buckets make definitely sense for everyone to review. I assume, Laurie, everyone's going to lean more towards the one or the other, depending personality. So my question would be, do you feel those are all kind of like the same important, or is it really depending on what you defer to as a person? Because I think the personal aspect and being real on social media is something that has been overlooked for a long time. And more than ever, people want to talk to real people and not to people who make stories up.
Yes, like here's my favorite line, and I hope that this trend that came from 2020 lasts for the rest of our lives, because as you can see, I like this line. Unpolished is the new polished. So many of us in lockdown stopped wearing makeup, stopped doing our hair, stopped doing our nails. Like, oh my gosh, they're ratchet. And it's almost like you have become more accepting of yourself. But guess what? You're like so many other people out there. So the more unpolished you can be today, the greater the impact.
Terrific. All right, well, let's take a couple questions. Let's see. First up, I just had it here. Okay, Corey Carter is asking, how important are Instagram and Facebook stories, and how often should we post? So I think we might have answered the second part of the question already, but what about the stories?
So Corey Carter, first off, shout out to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Corey Carter, go Pack, go. How important are Instagram, Facebook stories, and how often? They're very important. So Lindsay Cochran, I see your question, and we'll get to it too. Lindsay and I were talking about this. I was doing a lunch and learn with Instagram. And guess what? I should have brought it. I don't know where it is. Is it here? They told all of us that were in this room, how to grow on Instagram. So Corey, here's the deal. First, they want you to do reels. If you can't focus on anything on Instagram right now, they want you to do reels and like 3 photos a week. So, but they said reels, they want 4 to 7 reels a week, which means it sounds like they want 1 a day. But they said if you can't do 1 a day, 4 reels is sufficient. I don't know where they come up with these numbers, but it's them. And then when they got to stories, your question, Corey, they said they want 8 to 10 stories a week. But here's the beauty, and I love that they said this. Don't worry about being polished or perfect. It's not about that. Stories will keep your audience engaged with you in the middle of when you're not posting photos, etc. And so stories can literally be you taking a hike. And maybe that's boring to a bunch of people, but as long as you're doing what Instagram wants you to do, that's more important sometimes. So stories, think about stories, Corey, and tell this to everybody at WIXX and everywhere else. Stories should be fleeting moments. Stories should be those moments in our life that don't need to be memorialized online. So again, going back to the hike, I hike every day. I don't need to memorialize that in a static photo every single day. But if I see something beautiful on a hike, that's where a story is great. If you're out to eat, nobody really needs to see your food sitting there forever. But if you're fascinated with food, like so many are, do a story. That way I can just be like, shit, Corey's sharing his food again. I can just like tap past it and move on instead of it showing up in my newsfeed, right?
Laurie, so that's more like a document versus create type of approach that you're proposing here, right? So like a document versus approach.
Yes, think immediacy of the moment, fleeting moments, stuff that does not need to be memorialized on our Facebook, Instagram accounts.
Because that ties in with the next question from Lindsay Cochrane, I hope I say that right. How important is produced video content on social media opposed to a random video you put up?
Raw and random, Lindsay, is it right now. We may meet a year from now, and I pray to God it's not changing, because it's so nice that bare bones content is what's generating reaction right now. Every time I see somebody produce something highly produced, whether it's a stock photo or going to your question, Lindsay, in a produced photo, I just cringe. It's like, good Lord, like how many different ways do I have to say unpolished is the new polish? So be raw and random.
Okay, another question to follow up on the how are you theme that you just talked about. Kiki Garcia says, with going live 5 minutes to ask how are you, she lost her dad in December, and Kiki, we're sorry to hear that. And she goes on to say, I know others have lost too. If I spend 5 minutes chatting about that, is it too dark?
Kiki, it's a beautiful question. And my empathy and sympathy goes to you, because I've lost both of my dads, so I know the pain. Here's the answer. The answer lies in the audience interaction. If you get on Facebook Live and you say, hey, I can't really spend a lot of time today. I'm struggling over the death of my father. And, just wanted to let you guys know that I'm still here for you. I'm just, feeling a little raw today. If the audience starts talking back with you, Kiki, then that means they want to be there for you. If they kind of go crickets, it will feel weird, but just, close the Facebook Live out and go. Always do this, Kiki, and to everybody. Don't let other people tell you what content is good and bad, because content is subjective. It is the audience that will teach us what they want from you. So Kiki, if you said to somebody, hey, should I go live in 5 minutes and talk about how I'm missing my dad? Somebody's going, no, that's too personal. They have no clue. The audience is who should be directing your thoughts on content and where you should be taking the audience.
Well, Lori, thank you. This was absolutely a fantastic session today, and we can go on for hours, I think. So we'll have to have you back if that's okay.
Yes, I would love to. And Lindsay Cochran, Andy, say her last name again, because I promise you she's going to start saying her last name like that. It's great. Say it again.
No, don't make fun of me. That's one of the.
If you'd like to watch the video, we will be
up
make
on
the P1 Media Group website
and
Benztown website and other social channels tomorrow. Lori will have a copy too, so you'll be able to see this and share this with your team. I hope you found it valuable. Certainly, there's some amazing comments from the people viewing today, and we thank you for watching. We did want to let you know the next Global Radio Ideas webinar is coming up. You can see on the 15th of April. It's a Thursday. And we're going to talk to a Frenchman named Thierry Chamou, who runs, it might be the biggest commercial radio station in the world. And they do a phenomenal job there. This guy is programmed throughout Europe, and he's going to bring lots of great tips on our next webinar. And beyond that, if you have a suggestion for somebody you'd like to have us join as a guest on the webinar, or an idea for a topic, this topic actually originally came from a viewer in Durban, South Africa. Said, hey, I want to know more about social media. So we are very responsive. Just drop an email to me, Ken at p1mediagroup.com.
Hey, Ken, really quick. I see Val and Chris. I've seen the people say I have 7 tactics, and I would love to tell them what the 8 are, because clearly they missed one.
Sure.
So everybody, just to recap, and cool, Val, I'm with you. Like, I'm not good with math either. The first high impact tactic that we talked about, reply to comments. Okay, people want to feel seen and heard. That's the first high impact tactic. The second was pinball wizard. Move people around, right? Don't let the party start and stop on Facebook. Take them off Facebook, move them over to on air to get them to listen, then move them somewhere. So we've got replying to comments, pinball wizard, breathe in between posts. Try and just focus on one great piece of content a day, and let that do the work for you. Because that content could last 24 hours, which means you don't have to post any more than once a day. That's what breathe in between posts meant. Data-driven approach, study the audience signals through the insights the platforms give to you for free. Create a cadence. That is like a calendar. Plot out, look at the week ahead, and figure out what it is that you want to share. But the cadence is fluid, so you can shift content around, add, remove content, but have some kind of structure for the week ahead. Holy crap moments. Try and set a goal to create a holy crap moment once a week. Transcend these fundamentals to other channels. Consider using email when you've got like a Facebook Live or a great piece of content that generated a ton of engagement. Consider using other channels to pull people into that post. And then the 8th is connect with emotion.
Thank you so much.
That's what you did, Laurie.
Everybody watching today on Clubhouse and on the webinar. Again, you can get the videos tomorrow at the P1 Media Group website in Benztown, also our social channels, and I'm sure Laurie will make it available on hers as well. Thank you. This was really terrific, and we'd love to have you come back at some point.
Thank you. Oh, I did that. I wasn't supposed to do that. That's sort of like a pet peeve, isn't it? I just waved.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you on the 15th of April. I guarantee that's going to be a really interesting and an insightful chat with, again, the guy that programs maybe the biggest commercial radio station in the world. So we'll see you in a few weeks. Have a great afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye, guys. Thanks, Laurie.
Thank you.